I'm Mindy Peterson, and this is Enhanced Life with Music, where we explore the ways music can make our lives better and spotlight the resources you can use to enhance your life with music. We're talking today about how music is being used to get the most out of a life living with cystic fibrosis, also known as CF. Ashley Ballou-Bonnema is a professional vocalist, teacher, and writer whose own experience with singing and CF was transformational. Ashley founded the nonprofit organization Breathe Bravely to help others combat the effects of CF and progressive lung disease through the science, art, and practice of singing. Ashley joins me today from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, my neighboring state to the west. Welcome to Enhanced Life with Music, Ashley.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here.
So wonderful to meet you and connect with a fellow Midwestern gal. As you know, Ashley, I found out about your work in a recent Sound Health Network e-newsletter. Shout out to Sound Health Network. For listeners who aren't familiar, they promote research on music's impact on health and wellness. I'll put a link in the show notes and highly recommend that listeners follow their socials and their newsletter. Their article about your work pointed out that music for you isn't just an art form. It's literally your lifeline. You're a classically trained opera singer living with cystic fibrosis, and your singing has proven to be not just a path for healing for you, but also a vital health indicator. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that. But starting out, for those of us who may not be really familiar with cystic fibrosis, just tell us a little bit about what it is.
Yeah, sure. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease that is multi-organ systems that it affects. Namely, most people think of CF as a respiratory disease, which is true. But there are also, CFTR proteins throughout our entire body that are affected. But namely, when people think of CF, they think of either a digestive system disease and or a respiratory disease because the body produces a thick, sticky mucus due to the mutations of CF, which in our lungs is hard to clear, which creates respiratory issues, infections, damage, scarring, leading to respiratory failure. So is it a progressive fatal disease?
Okay. And from what I understand, when you were born, you were not expected to live to the age of 20, but you've lived far beyond that, and medical care is advanced enough that over half of today's population who's living with CF is over 18 years of age. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. It's about 60% now are above 18 years old. So like you said, when I was born, I wasn't expected to live past the age of 20, which I just celebrated my 38th birthday, which is pretty incredible. So
wonderful.
And thanks to, continued progress in the medical field of therapies and medications, that life expectancy continues to go up and up and up.
We are grateful for our scientists at Sound Health Network and beyond, for sure. Well, tell us just a little bit about your story. I know for a long time you were very adamant that nobody know that you were living with CF. This was, I think, during college or as late as college. What took you from that point of not wanting anyone to know that you had CF to starting a nonprofit organization helping others with CF transform their health and well-being through music?
Yeah. So I had an older brother with cystic fibrosis as well, who was 7 years older than I was. And, I watched his journey with CF as a child growing up. He was diagnosed late at the age of 7. And so he did not have an early intervention the same way that I did. And his disease itself was more severe. So watching him grow up battling this disease that just caused such despair within our family, really wreaked havoc on the marriage of my parents, their emotions, how this disease truly impacted not just the person with CF, but this ripple of people around him. I saw how devastating this disease could be to my parents and to the people that loved him. And so I didn't want to be the cause of that pain. So a lot of times I would downplay it. I would pretend it didn't exist. I was grateful because after he was diagnosed, when I was born, they just tested me right away. So I had that early intervention right from the beginning of life, which set me up for greater success. But with that said, I could also kind of moonlight that I didn't really have a disease. And cystic fibrosis is known as an invisible illness. So if you were to see me on the street, you wouldn't be thinking, "Oh wow, this girl has a genetic disease or has a lung problem or cystic
Hmm.
fibrosis specifically." So I could get by with having this kind of quote normal life, and also, not wanting to be the cause of more pain for my family. So wanting to downplay it, wanting to just kind of hide it. So that was kind of one respect of why I kept CF kind of close to my heart. Secondly, as a musician, nobody's going to hire a singer who can't breathe. So
Hmm.
I, going to college, wanted to be measured by the same standards as my peers, not necessarily as somebody who's like, "Oh wow, you sang that piece really well for someone with CF."
Sure.
So I was adamant that I wanted to be measured by the same standards and know, as for myself as well, that I was capable of doing it. The difficult part of all of that is, like I said, CF is a progressive disease, and CF doesn't care what you have planned for yourself. And so there were, complications that continued to arise while I was in college, but got through most of college without, the masses of my peers knowing. There were a few professors that knew because they had to know. But going to grad school is when things really became apparent that I wasn't able to hide it any longer. During this time, as well as things were progressing, I was having severe bouts of hemoptysis, which is coughing up blood.
Mm.
And so having increased episodes that were deadly, as well as the need for antibiotics constantly. So I would be hooked up to home IVs. I would go to college and stick them in my clothes and hide them so that my peers couldn't see or know
Oh,
that this
wow.
was happening. But, was so excited to go to grad school and continue my education, not necessarily knowing what I wanted to do, but I know that I needed to do it. And, looking back, it's always hindsight is 2020, right? You're able to look back and realize that you were on this path because it was it was my source of life, truly, that if I wasn't singing, what was I doing? What was happening to my body? The very act of singing in and of itself and studying and pursuing, reminded me that I was alive, that I was living and I was breathing and I was winning this battle against CF.
Mm.
So I got to, grad school, and, during this time with more hospitalizations and more complications, I had some wonderful friends that were around me saying, like, "We know what's going on, let us in." And, I was trying to protect everybody from the realities and the devastation that CF can cause. And so during grad school, again, having complications that arise, where it made it really impossible for me to hide it any longer. I remember, one of the kind of key moments in my experience of grad school is doing my first jury for my first semester, and going up singing my pieces, thinking, "That's right, I did it. Like I'm stronger than CF. CF will never be able to take me down." Right. And I remember walking off the stage and feeling this kind of gurgle or bubble in my chest. And I knew exactly what it was. And I went to the bathroom and I had a severe hemoptysis episode, and thinking, I just got done performing this Brahms piece that I loved, and, several other pieces that I had got to perform for the faculty, and thinking how hard I have worked and how strong I felt, to this devastating reminder that CF was still in charge and
Mm.
CF was still going to undermine everything that I loved. And so later that year, again, from friends and family saying, let us in, I started a blog on April 1st of 2014 that just was kind of me coming out to the world that I had cystic fibrosis. And this is really what it means in my life. This is how it impacts me emotionally, mentally, physically. This is how it impacts my relationships. This is how it impacts my ideas and my wishes for the future. And so it was at that point that I really allowed the world to see me as me. And, you know, it's crazy to look back on it now that after sharing all of that, I would have one of the most severe and serious complications of that following year with my cystic fibrosis, thinking that I would need a double lung transplant or that I might not survive to the near future. And luckily, that is not where my path took me. But all of that blog that I had started writing allowed the world to be ready for that part of my life. And I should say, allowed me to be ready to share that part of my life.
Mm.
So I got to my last semester of graduate school and I had no voice from all of these respiratory complications. And, in order for me to get my degree, I had to give a degree recital at the end of that semester. And it was going from 25% lung function to 50% lung function within those 6 months that I truly believe that it was singing that saved my life. And so when I got to that recital, when you take that final bow, I knew it wasn't just about me performing this recital of this music that I loved, but it was so much more than that, that I knew that singing had saved my life. And everybody that was present that day as well also realized what singing had done in defiance to a disease that was vying to steal every breath. And so it was at that point I realized Ashley as the musician and Ashley as the person with CF didn't have to live parallel lives. And so it was where those two, that passion that and my truth intersected, became my purpose. And that's when I realized, I truly believe that singing has enhanced my life, has given me more life, has extended my life. What happens if I could work with other individuals living with cystic fibrosis so they too might know the life-giving impact that singing can have on their own life? So
Oh,
from there, Breathe Bravely was born, the nonprofit.
wow. That is such a powerful story. And I had so many thoughts as you were sharing that. One of them was we never know what is going on behind the curtain of people's lives. When we see the outside of them, we make assumptions that everything's fine and we don't know the challenges that they're living with. I mean, just hearing the fact that you were attending college classes, having an IV hidden under your clothing, like, wow, you are a badass woman, I mean, I really love what you said too about how you came to that point of realizing it wasn't Ashley with CF and it wasn't Ashley as a musician as two separate entities. It was where those points intersected that you really found purpose. And it just reminds me of the fact that sometimes the things in life, the situations, the circumstances, the events that we see as such a devastating event can have the silver lining, where for you, it was this awful episode that your disease brought on, but there was the silver lining of really bringing about your purpose and some of your life's work, it could probably be said. So really
Yeah, and
powerful.
a lot of when I started writing as well, to kind of air my life to everyone and share it with them. The sole purpose of it was not to be like, this is happening to me. This is, all of these things that happen in CF. This is what it creates. These are the feelings that it manifests. That I wanted every single writing that people were to read to be a connection point, because what I experience as an obstacle in my life is going to be different than somebody else's obstacle in their life. But the beauty of connection and empathy is that those feelings are the same. We all feel pain. We all feel heartache. We all feel excitement and elation.
Sure.
We just call them different things. And so instead of it, CF being this thing that makes me an outlier, instead it's my experiences that make it so that I am able to understand and be understood.
Mm, yes. You have a really great graphic on your website that shows all the areas of the body that CF can affect. And you point out that CF can also affect the mind. Singing has proven mental, emotional, and physical benefits. Tell us how singing can be used to help manage and heal from cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, so that is the one key component about singing that I love so much, and especially how it impacts someone in CF, is that mental, emotional, and physical aspects of the power of music. And first of all, I had talked about how CF creates this thick, sticky mucus in the lungs and creates scarring and respiratory issues and infections. And we, as people with cystic fibrosis, have to do airway clearance several times a day to get that mucus up and moving so that it doesn't become compacted and a breeding ground for infection. And so we put on what kind of looks like a life jacket, and it has hoses that connect to it, and it fills with air, and it actually vibrates from the outside in to help loosen and move that mucus. And the beautiful thing about singing is that it's vibratory. And within the chest and the lungs, we're moving that air, but it's intrinsic vibration instead of external vibration. So I always say we're getting the best of both worlds, right? Where we have all of these wonderful medical advancements that help us move that mucus, but we ourselves have the greatest instrument of all that can move it intrinsically to help.
So can you use singing in place of that other process, or is it just sort of a supplement to it, or does it depend on the person and
really
whatever stage they're in at the moment?
Yeah, yep, really depends on the person. For me personally, I do a therapy vest treatment in the first thing in the morning, and then because I'm teaching or singing all day, I use that really as my second airway clearance. And then at night, I'll do another therapy vest. So I use it as addition to, and a lot of the singers that we're working with, we're showing them how they can be singing while they're doing their vest. So you're getting maximum potential for all of that vibration and that airway clearance and that movement. So the physicalities of that alone are really powerful as a person with CF dealing with lung disease. And, it always feels like an oxymoron when I talk about this, where you're talking about singing, you're talking about breathing with people who have lung disease. It just feels like a misnomer, right? And in all actuality, it is one of the most powerful enhancing therapies that somebody can do. So that side of the physicality, and its benefits, also just respiratory strength. We do a lot of coughing. We do a lot of, deep breathing, trying to get that air into the bottom lobes of our lungs. And so we're constantly working on diaphragmatic strength, respiratory strength, intercostal strength. As a person with CF, when we go into doctor's appointments, we do pulmonary function tests that give off, some indication of how our lungs are doing. And so that's all based on how strong your respiratory system is, how well you can take that deep, methodical breath, and how forceful you can exhale. And so singing, the very basis of singing is that breath work. And that aligns just so perfectly with the health and well-being of someone's lung systems with cystic fibrosis.
Sure.
And then we talk about breath management and breath control as CF becomes more and more progressive and people are dealing with infections, loss of lung function. People can feel that they lose control of their own breath. And so what we like to do is to allow people to feel that they're in control of their breath and their breath is not in control of them.
That sounds like something that would have really significant positive mental effects too. Just mentally knowing that I'm in control of my breath rather than feeling like CF is in control of it seems like it would really have a big impact.
Yeah, and I think that is the most powerful thing when it comes to working with a singer with CF is when talking to them, you feel like I can either sing or I can't sing, right? It's one of those on-off switches, and it all has to do with the physicality. But I can tell you every single day that I'm teaching, I am talking to my students and saying, singing is 90% mental. It's all in the brain and how you're approaching that sound, that physicality of things. And once people understand that they really have that control, there's this freedom that is released within them and within their own voice, rather than them feeling constricted and suffocated almost by their own inabilities or the physicalities of what CF is doing.
Sure. That also sounds like it would have huge impact for just anxiety too, really mitigating that and instilling a confidence instead.
Yeah. And so when it goes to, the talking about the physicality of singing and the mental and the emotional, you know, talking about maximum breath potential is what we're trying to get at. Because with every percent lost, you know, that also has a mental implication to us as well. Like, oh my gosh, my disease is progressing. Oh my gosh, this anxiety,
Sure.
this worry that overcomes us.
Sure.
Well, if we can know that we are maximizing every single breath that we are taking, it feels less like we are being consumed by a disease and more that we have the tools to fight it.
Yeah.
So,
That self-efficacy.
yeah, yep. So then, you know, that's the physicalities of that, the physical aspects of singing, where like you were talking about the mental and the emotional, you know, just the ability to reduce anxiety, to reduce perceived pain, to even think that we are breathing better, how that changes the mental side and our relationship with a disease that we have no control over.
Sure. Stress reduction, it kind of falls into that same category, I imagine. Staying balanced in life is very important to me. Balance in work and play, activity and rest, and balance in fueling my energy. When I am on the go or just find my cupboards running a little bare, the fuel I reach for is Jam Bar energy bars. These bars are certified organic whole food bars. They're non-GMO and gluten-free. I especially love that they are higher in protein than the other all-natural bars I found, and they're minimally sweetened with only all-natural sweeteners. Well, I love all 5 flavors. My personal favorites are musical mango and tropical trio. Jambar flavor names reflect the company founder's passion for music. And Jambar donates a whopping 50% of net profits to programs that support music and active living. Join me in supporting a balanced life and world by reaching for Jambars. Available at Amazon, select retailers, and jambar.com. Links are in the show notes. This is a quick break to tell you about Sonics, the service that I use to transcribe these episodes. Sonics is an artificial intelligence transcription service that automatically converts audio and video files to text, and it can translate to over 40 languages. I transcribe these episodes to make them more accessible. I tried multiple services and chose to stick with Sonics because of their accuracy, affordability, and because their site is just so easy to use. That's a big plus for me to not need to spend a bunch of time figuring out one more platform. While I love podcasts, I do tend to be a very visual learner. I figure other people probably are too, and having that written form of your work just makes it more versatile. Sonics transcripts make the most of your hard work and can increase traffic to your site. Sonics is spelled Sonix. You can check them out with a free trial plus an extra 100 minutes of free transcription by using the link sonix.ai/invite/enhancelife100. There's a link in the show notes. Again, it's spelled Sonix, and that link is sonix.ai/invite/enhancelife100 for a free trial and an extra 100 minutes of free transcription. One thing that I noticed on your website is you talk about how singing has been not only a path to healing in some of the ways that you just described, but you've also found it's really helpful for managing CF as a health indicator. Tell us a little bit how singing really allows you to be in tune with what's going on with your body and just being really aware of when maybe there's an infection that you're fighting or there's complications or things are going really well. Tell us how singing affects that ability to sort of monitor what's happening.
Yeah, and I think, you know, my college years specifically, this is really where I started to understand just how vital singing was in my own life. And not only as just a human being living with a lung disease, but as a singer specifically. You know, I would sing a piece one day and say, "Oh, I can sing these 3 measures with no problem." And I would go in to the practice room the next day and I would only be able to sing 2 measures. And I would think, "Oh my gosh, okay, what's going on with my lungs? I can feel something is different." And it would be, you know, a gauge for me to see the health and wellness of my lungs. So I would call my care team and say, oh my gosh, I can only sing 2 measures today. They probably thought I was absolutely insane. I could sing 3 measures yesterday and I can only sing 2 today. Something is going on. But it was, after many experiences of this that my care team started to really trust me and trust and understand that I knew my body so well and that we were able to catch and kind of intervene at an earlier time than
Sure.
letting things just kind of like blow up and have to fight things 10 times harder from behind. So that is,
Totally makes sense.
yeah, that's one way I wanted to help other individuals with CF is for them to have that control and understanding and just the knowledge of their own body so that, like you said, you could be completely in tune with the health and well-being of your respiratory system.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your nonprofit organization, Breathe Bravely. You started it with the goal of helping others with CF discover and implement the transformative connection that you found between music and wellness and all it's done for you. Tell us more about the organization and the resources that it offers.
Yeah, so we started Breathe Bravely in 2015, and it was
Coming up on 10 years here.
I know it's crazy. I cannot believe that it's been 10 years and all that has been accomplished and the gift that really we have seen and understood to be this organization and its potential. So the organization, its mission is dedicated to giving voice to cystic fibrosis. And it was my hope when we started this that we could pair individuals with cystic fibrosis with professional voice instructors for private voice lessons. Being an instructor myself and a musician, I have a plethora of incredible musician friends and colleagues that I trust wholeheartedly with the philosophy of teaching. So there were 2 specific individuals that I was very close to as musician friends and also as colleagues that I came to and said, hey, I have this idea for a nonprofit. I would really love to pair people with CF with you for, let's say, a 10-week program of private voice instruction. And I'm not sure if you understand this or our listeners know this as well, but 2 people with cystic fibrosis are recommended not to share the same space.
I didn't know that until I was looking through your website information.
Yeah. Yep. So it can be a very isolating disease because, you think of support systems and you think, okay, let's all go out for coffee. Let's all get
Right.
together. And, there's nobody that understands better than a person who is experiencing it themselves.
So when
But
COVID happened and everybody was isolating, those of you with CF were like, yeah, now you know what it's like,
yes, exactly. And, COVID, thank goodness it is over, but it was a really great learning experience for other people to understand what it's like to be a person with CF. And, if we are in the same space outside, we have the 6-foot rule. So we have to maintain a distance.
Sounds familiar.
Yep, exactly.
COVID. Thank
Yep.
you. COVID.
So, we have learned as a community how to connect outside of being able to be face to face in person. And so, thank goodness for Zoom. Thank goodness for, just the online community and presence, because that's the only way that we can really truly connect.
So you were very fluent in connecting on
Yeah.
FaceTime and Zoom well
Yeah.
before 2020 happened to everybody.
And, at first we being, teachers and being students ourselves at several points in our life, where when you think of music lessons and you think of voice lessons, you don't think, let's do them online, right? And this was circa 2017. So this was way before the world went really online.
Yep.
And, so I went to my friends and said, you have to be my mouthpiece because I can't work with these people in person. So I'm going to have to tell you what it feels like to have CF and sing with CF and, certain exercises that I do in vocalises and approaches and how it benefits a person with respiratory disease so that you can implement it with these people. And so after a lot of discussion and a lot of ideas, we decided to move the program online because that would allow us to better connect with individuals from across the globe. So cystic fibrosis affects about 90,000 people worldwide and about 70,000 people in the United States.
Wow. So a big percentage of those are in the US.
Yeah, yep,
Is
exactly right.
that just because we have better diagnosis techniques and people in other parts of the world maybe have it and aren't being diagnosed? Or
Yes,
is there another reason?
yes, that as well. And also, one of the most prominent genetic mutations is from Northern European descent. And
Ah,
so
okay.
the United States has a large population of Northern European. Uh,
Yep.
so specifically, that caters to greater numbers in the United States.
Okay.
And,
Sure.
um, so we decided to move the programming online so that way it would protect the individual that we were working with from encountering germs and getting sick and having to leave their homes, to allowing our teachers to teach from anywhere to anyone that had Wi-Fi capability.
Uh-huh.
So we started in 2017 with just five singers, five students living with CF from the ages of 12 all the way up to 60 years old. And we are now starting February 1st, our 25th session of
Wow.
SingSpire. And in that time, we've taught over 7,000 lessons to individuals living with cystic fibrosis.
Wow. Wow. And I want to clarify, you have the SingSpire virtual lessons, and then you also have of SingSpire, and I love how you spell this, where you capitalize just the letters in that word SingSpire that spell the word inspire. Do I have that right?
That is perfect. Yes, I
Okay.
love that
Okay.
I love that you caught that. Yes.
So you also have the SingSpire virtual choir. So tell us about those two programs.
Yeah, so the SingSpire lesson program is the original. That's what we started in 2017. We have 3 sessions every single year, and we now cap our intake at 40 students per session.
Okay.
And currently there are 4 of us teaching. So it was really great when we went online with this programming because that allowed me to also work and teach students with cystic fibrosis, where if it were in person, that wouldn't be a possibility for me. So, SingSpire virtual lesson program, that is its own entity. And then we have the SingSpire virtual choir. So, a lot of the teachers that I have the great privilege to work with, I met them by doing ensemble singing with them. And for anybody who has ever sung in an ensemble or a choir, you know that there is just this untouchable bond that is created with the people that stand next to you, that you take that breath together and you make that music together. There is just something so unworldly that is untouchable. And so we had all of these singers living with cystic fibrosis that never would have the chance to get together in person to experience that.
Sure.
And, talking as well about how isolating this disease can be and lonely because you're not interacting with people like yourself. You don't have that support system. I wondered if we could create an ensemble virtually that they might experience that level of community and that connection. And so, modeled after Eric Whitaker's virtual choir.
Which became, I think it became popular during COVID. That was the first I heard of it. Is that when he first started it?
No, he had actually done it several years prior. So I'm not sure on the date exactly, but I know it was 2014, 13-ish.
Okay.
So
Well,
really,
he called your group out as like one of his
yeah,
favorite virtual choirs I saw, which is pretty
yeah,
amazing.
which is really amazing. Yes.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
so
he's a Grammy award-winning composer, musician. His virtual choir during COVID just went viral. So
yes.
that's awesome.
So I modeled it after that and was like, we don't really know what we're doing. We're kind of stumbling through this. And I guess we'll just figure it out as we go. And it truly is one of the most rewarding and just magical experiences for these singers to come together virtually as one voice. Never would it be possible for us to go to a performing hall and get together and stand next to each other. But that doesn't mean that we can't make incredible music together as one voice.
Right. I can only imagine how powerful and empowering that would be for the participants because anyone who's gone through something traumatic or challenging has an immediate bond with one another. And then, like you said, anyone who sings in a choir or plays in a symphony together, you get that entrainment going and you just have this bonding that happens. So to combine those would just be an exponential experience. I imagine that would be incredibly, like I said, powerful and empowering.
And I'm always reminded as well during these, we do a rehearsal process and, come together for several months before they have to submit their recordings and such. But inevitably, the very first rehearsal that we do, I'll get messages from singers that say, I've never met anybody else with CF.
Oh, wow.
And, these are coming from people who are 50 some years old.
Oh,
And just how powerful that is, that when you see somebody across a screen, it isn't that you have to explain yourself.
oh,
And
yeah,
what I love most as well is when we're having these conversations and we're, doing icebreakers and getting to know each other and just having conversation like you would before you start a rehearsal, that you don't, we very rarely talk about CF. It's just one of those things that's understood by everyone.
sure.
And if somebody does talk about their life with CF or something that they're experiencing, there's this level of comfort and recognition and also radical acceptance that you just can be you wholeheartedly and you don't have to try and explain yourself. And I
Mm.
think that allows people to really use and find their voice in a different way.
Oh, I bet. Wow. The closest thing I can think of comparing that to personally is I have 3 siblings. We all live in different parts of the country. And when I get together with them, which isn't all that often, there is this connection and bond. Like, we grew up in the same household. We had known each other our entire lives. It's just this unspoken, you just know each other,
Just
and that's the
understand.
closest.
And I think what
Yeah,
is really beautiful as well after our rehearsals, come to a close and our project is done, is that there are these friendships and these connections that are made
mm,
and outside of that. And I think that is the true catalyst of why we make music, is to connect.
wow. That's really beautiful. Just knowing I'm not alone in this has got to be incredibly moving for people. I can imagine.
You know, and in the world of virtual music making, right? We can't hear each other when we sing. And so there's this also empowerment that happens with every single individual singer where they're thinking, "Oh my gosh, it's just me. I just have to send in a recording of my voice." And that is really terrifying for any and all musicians,
Sure.
to just be singled out in that way. And at least when you're in with a live choir, in person as well, you can kind of hide and meld
Yep.
yourself to the person next to you, and there's a strength in that. But in this kind of adaptation of music making, you don't get to hide. You have to trust that your voice is being built amongst 20 some other people to become something greater than yourself.
Mm, beautiful. You have so much information on your website. I'll be sure to include that link, of course, in the show notes. You also have a blog that is beautiful. There will be the link there. You have a mailing list. You teach, obviously, voice lessons and have access to other teachers in your network through the SingSpire virtual lessons. Any other resources that you want people to know about that are available through Breathe Bravely?
Yeah, I think if people are interested about cystic fibrosis and want to know more about CF as well, there are great websites and resources like the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, cff.org. Also, the Cystic Fibrosis Research Institute, which is cfri.org. Just, some general information about CF in and of itself.
And I noticed on your website you have the Cystic Fibrosis Community Collective, which is really awesome. It's a consortium of small but impactful CF nonprofit organizations that are all doing amazing things in their own different ways and spaces. So lots of links there where people can connect with those as well. And I'll point out too that if people are listening to this and thinking, "Oh, I love what this woman's doing," and want to support it in some way, you do have a space on your website where people can donate as well. So if people are interested in that, that is also an option.
Cystic fibrosis is a very expensive disease to live with. And, we certainly understand and know and realize the life-giving impact and priceless impact of music in our lives. And I never want individuals or students to have to decide whether or not they can afford to be a part of this program. So all of our programming is free to individuals. But with that said, that's how we write grants and take donations to ensure that nobody has to make that choice.
Good to know. That's wonderful. I'm just going to close out with a quote from your website that I really loved. On your website, you say, "With every breath I take, I am grateful. And with every song that is born in my heart, I know that singing has helped save my life." And from that mere truth, Singspire was born, built upon a passion and hope that someone else with CF may know the life-giving power of singing. Really beautiful. Well, I ask, Ashley, all my guests to close out our conversation with a musical ending, a coda, by sharing a song or story about a moment that music enhanced your life. Is there a song or story you can share with us today in closing?
Yeah, having talked about the Singspire Virtual Choir, I think that is something that I always go back to as one of the most meaningful experiences that I always have the opportunity to make music with individuals like myself. But there's something so magical about taking those individual voices and when they're all put together, the incredible, magnificent masterpiece that is created out of building all of those voices together. And as like I say to all of the singers who contribute to the virtual choir, if one of those voices is missing, that masterpiece is not complete, and that masterpiece would not be the same. And so it takes every individual voice coming together to create something greater than ourselves. We had the great opportunity to have a composer named Jennifer Lucy Cook, who is based in LA, write our last two pieces for us. And the last piece that she did is called "There's a Mountaintop." And I think it speaks so personally to not only people with CF, but the greater community as well. Of we see that mountaintop and we think about the mountaintop that we want to climb or would climb, and how that impacts and affects how we look down from the peak and how we look out across those vistas. And I think there is nothing greater than standing at the top of that mountain, being able to look out, and take that deep breath, and be so wholly grateful for the life that we get to live regardless of the circumstance.
On the mountaintop that I always want to climb is a path lit by every hope I dare to try. I could pack my bag with worry, I could sing a breathless song, I could plan 100 ways it might go wrong. Been so long since I had to surrender. Every plan held tight within my hand. Life has a way of making me remember. Take a breath, take a step, I'm here.
And that is a little bit of "There's a Mountaintop," composed by Jennifer Lucy Cook and sung by the Singspire Virtual Choir. You can view the video and listen to the entire song at the link in the episode notes. Thank you so much to Ashley for joining us today and for all she does to enhance lives with music, particularly for those dealing with CF and progressive lung disease. You'll find all the links from today's conversation in the episode notes, as well as a transcript of this episode and related episodes you may enjoy, including episodes on pain relief and management through music and music as an intervention for multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's disease. All Enhanced Life with Music episodes are evergreen, so be sure to check out the back catalog for more ways that music can make your life better. If you know of someone who would enjoy this episode, perhaps a friend, family member, or a therapist, please share it with them. It's easy to do right in your podcast listening app. Just tap the share feature for options to share by text, email, or social media. You can always connect with me on email, mindy@mpetersonmusic.com, Facebook, Instagram, X, or LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing the show. Until next time, may your life be enhanced with music.